On one hand, our starter is set, but on the other hand, our bench is chaos. SKOL Nation, we have two big updates today. First, a 22-year-old has a 30% trade chance. Second, he might hit third string after overthrowing 2 targets. Both will be revealed shortly. Watch to the end, like, and subscribe for 2,000. Comment your city so I see our reach. Kyler Murray was signed by the Minnesota Vikings to be our starting quarterback with JJJ. McCarthy designated as the primary backup for this season. My perspective on this transition is clear because seeing a new veteran signal caller take the reins completely changes how I view our immediate offensive potential. Having followed McCarthy since he entered the fold, it is tough to watch a young talent shift into a secondary role, especially after he started 10 games last year while tallying 1,632 passing yards and 11 touchdowns. I'm excited to see what Murray brings to our roster, but I also want to pump the brakes a little until we see how he meshes with the system. And this is the part that gets me. According to Bleacher Report, Mo Moton believes there is a 30% chance that McCarthy could eventually be traded. Is this the real deal, or are we getting ahead of ourselves regarding his future here? The front office is clearly not going to just give him away for a measly late-round pick given his current development curve, but they would likely demand a middle-round asset to even entertain a serious conversation. His 12 interceptions and 72.6 passer rating from last year certainly complicate his trade value, making it seem much more probable that he stays on our bench for this year. Still, I find myself questioning how long that depth chart will actually hold steady if the offense hits a rough patch early in the campaign. If Murray goes down, is the front office actually prepared to rely on McCarthy for another extended stretch? Or are they quietly looking for a different solution? This situation feels like a high-stakes gamble that will define our entire year, and I need to figure out what happens if the plan fails. Why would a franchise commit to a veteran signal caller if they felt their younger prospect was already fully prepared to handle the intensity of a complete season? This decision highlights a calculated move by our leadership to stabilize the position, prioritizing immediate reliability over the potential volatility that defined last year. And I'll be straight with you. Watching this unfold in the front office feels like a classic case of balancing long-term upside against the harsh reality of winning football games right now. Injuries have historically derailed seasons for guys like Kyler Murray, and that specific risk likely pushed the decision-makers to retain J.J. McCarthy rather than offloading him for minimal draft capital. Could any of us truly feel comfortable if our depth chart lacked a high-ceiling option like him during an unforeseen setback? Mo Moton of Bleacher Report hit the nail on the head by suggesting a trade for anything less than a middle-round asset would be a poor use of our resources. We are talking about a player who showed flashes of talent despite those dozen picks and a 72.6 passer rating during his rookie starts. Honestly, my perspective on this hinges on that developmental gap, as the team clearly views him as a long-term project that deserves more time in our system. If the coaching staff thought he was ready to lead the charge, he would be starting, but the current reality indicates he needs further refinement away from the spotlight. Does this mean his development path is stunted, or is it actually the most prudent way to handle a former high draft pick? Maintaining him as the primary backup secures our floor while keeping his future intact, which, in my view, is exactly how a smart team should protect its most valuable investments without rushing a young quarterback into failure. Now let us get into the update regarding the backup quarterback competition, as Kevin O'Connell is currently evaluating J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz following that preseason outing against Baltimore. Since Kyler Murray secured the starting role, the focus shifted entirely to the depth behind him. Yet, this situation remains far from settled. McCarthy has taken every second-team snap, and O'Connell explicitly stated he is the backup. But the head coach also emphasized he wants the job to be fully competitive. During that game, McCarthy struggled with inconsistency, completing 5 of 10 passes for 81 yards while missing high on several throws and overshooting targets in the end zone. His one standout moment was a 50-yard strike to Ty Felton, but that singular play hardly cements his status. Here's what people are missing. Carson Wentz, working with the third team in the second quarter, appeared noticeably sharper than our rookie. According to ESPN's Kevin Seifert, the backup spot is still very much in flux, leaving a real possibility that Wentz could be the primary backup for our Week 1 opener, with McCarthy relegated to the emergency QB3 slot. I am excited to see McCarthy grow, but I also want to pump the brakes a little before we assume he is ready to hold a clipboard for a winning team. Does this performance mean he needs more time to acclimate to the speed of the professional game? Or are we witnessing a legitimate threat to his spot on the depth chart? It is tough to see our high draft pick struggle while a veteran looks more poised in limited action. Watching this unfold makes me wonder if our front office might reconsider the entire hierarchy before the regular season begins, as the margin for error is razor thin when you are talking about protecting your signal caller. Is the battle for our backup spot really turning into a full-blown dilemma between an unproven draft pick and a seasoned veteran? Pushing for competition at quarterback is standard practice, but watching our coaching staff weigh JJ McCarthy against Carson Wentz brings real anxiety to my morning. On one hand, keeping McCarthy means protecting the massive investment we made in his development, while ensuring he gains the reps necessary to eventually step into a starting role. However, the counter-argument is that Wentz has already proven he can manage the speed of the professional game, which provides an immediate safety net that a younger, raw prospect simply cannot offer during a tight division race. According to ESPN analyst Kevin Seifert, the situation is clearly unsettled, suggesting that McCarthy might be pushed to the emergency third-string role if he fails to tighten up his mechanical inconsistencies. Seeing him struggle to hit open receivers in the end zone while misfiring on several other throws creates legitimate doubt regarding his current readiness. Meanwhile, the fact that Wentz looked sharper while operating with the third team during that secondary stretch adds a layer of complexity to our internal depth chart. And honestly, I feel like this entire narrative might be slightly overblown by media pressure. Yet the reality remains that our margin for error is non-existent this season. What I really think is that while McCarthy possesses higher physical upside, we cannot ignore the risk of relying on a player who is currently struggling with basic accuracy under pressure. If the coaching staff determines that Wentz gives us a better chance to win a game in an emergency scenario, would you really pass on that just to keep a rookie on the active roster? I am skeptical that the team will abandon McCarthy so quickly, but the uncertainty surrounding his development is undeniably keeping me up at night lately. When you put both of today's stories together, here's the picture that emerges for the Minnesota Vikings. Our front office is currently operating with a very thin margin for error as they navigate a high-stakes transition at quarterback. The decision to bring in Kyler Murray as the starter while forcing JJ McCarthy to compete for a backup job signals a major shift in how we manage our offensive assets. Connecting these points, it becomes clear that our leadership group is prioritizing immediate results over pure patience, viewing the backup role not as a developmental slot, but as a potential insurance policy for a win-now campaign. What makes this even bigger is that our entire offensive trajectory depends on this hierarchy being ironclad. If the coaching staff decides to favor the veteran presence of Carson Wentz over our younger signal caller, it essentially acknowledges that our current project is not progressing at the speed our front office needs to remain competitive in the division. I am excited to see the team win, but I also want to pump the brakes a little because moving a high draft pick to the emergency third-string role is a difficult blow to his long-term outlook. We have reached a point where the X's and O's of this roster are being tested in real time, and I am genuinely curious how the locker room interprets this push for competition. Do you think the team is making a mistake by possibly demoting our rookie to the emergency QB3 slot? And for the Kyler Murray arrival, do you trust he has enough time to master the playbook before we hit the regular season? I really want to hear from the fans in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel.